We're in Las Vegas for Power Slap 5. There's some big-time college football matchups coming up in Week 9. And Tim Brando, a.k.a. Him Brando, joins us to break down college football in its entirety. Check it out and more on the pre-recorded edition of Crane & Company. All right, we are cruising through the college football season. Unfortunately, it's unbelievable how fast it goes when it gets here. I try to remind everybody that every week, whether you're watching, whether you're playing, whether you're coaching, whether you're just a fan, it absolutely flies by, but I guess time flies when you're having fun. But Week 9, there's some juicy matchups. Some that are a little bit undercover that may have some coaching implications on who's there and who's not later down the road. We want to make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We're going to bring Tim Brando in here in a second. Want to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback, David Cohn, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, and first touchdown anytime scoring soothsayer.
Yeah.
Blanye Crane, a.k.a. Blaine Crane, a.k.a. the Trash Stash. David, before we hop in, we all know it's tailgate season, all right? It may be the greatest. Actually, you know what? Nay. It is the greatest time of year for sports.
Oh, yeah.
College basketball's around the horizon. We got college football, NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, the playoffs, which is the best part after the 900-game regular season. And you want in on the action, and here comes the NBA as well. Everybody still has hope. The wait's over. All right, well, why do you keep smiling at me eerily like that?
I just love the things you're saying right now. Makes me happy.
Oh, you like the compliment I gave you?
Yeah, I did.
That's got him really gassed up. But you can get gassed up in a good way with our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, because they are the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and they're celebrating that partnership with an unbeatable offer. I'm talking Dream Team Michael Jordan, the actual squad offer, the one we're trying to put together to get real football in the Olympics. All right, because new customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with a dub. Smells like 1-0. You love to see it. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at even bigger basketball wins. And it's more fun when you're in on the action. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use our code BOOSTER. That's BOOSTER, because new customers can score that $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on the NBA or the NFL. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER. With DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Boom.
Speaking of kings, feels like Michigan may be the kings right now at college football, but we got in there the other day. I'm not going down that rabbit hole as
we'll see.
Excitement and personal blossoming joy as that brings you David Cohn. But we do have some really good matchups. And I thought, you know what? In a day where we need to dive real deep, I'm talking Greg Louganis.
Scuba gear.
Fucking put on the scuba gear. Let's get the floaties in there. Let's get down there and get some answers.
Why
not bring on the one and only Him Brando. That's right, I said it. Him Brando.
He's the man right now.
From Chateau.
He's the man right
now.
From
the Chateau. Our buddy Timmy B.
Chateau
Timmy
Brando.
B. What is up, dog?
Voila. Here I am from the Chateau. Good to be with you guys. How are you?
Good to be with you, too. Like, Tim, before we even hop into this has got to be the best time of year for sports, right? Like, if you're a sports fan just in aggregate, right? You love all the sports. It's got a little bit of everything. College basketball is almost here.
Yep. Yeah. And, you know, I will tell you, because I completely divorced myself of Major League Baseball for a period of about, I'd say 10 years maybe. Anybody that used to listen to the old Tim Brando show, remember I would consistently say just another reason to hate Major League Baseball. And that was a sport that was near and dear to me when I started out. It was the sport that I could play as a kid in school and play rather well, and at least for the level I was playing at. And because of the wanting to be a broadcaster, there was no ESPN when I was growing up. So I felt that I had to be able to call baseball if I wanted to be a full-time sportscaster. So I think all of us did. So to really get that upset with that sport, and I did during the Bud Selig years and the roid rage period, right after I left the Braves, stopped doing those games with Ernie Johnson Sr., I really got tired of it. But I'm back now, and I like what they've done to speed up the game. I think the players, for the most part, are better people. than the players that were playing during that era in the mid-'90s. And, of course, I was spoiled a little bit because the Braves had the best clubhouse in baseball. I mean, you had to check your ego in at the clubhouse door when you had, 3 Cy Young Award winners in your rotation. And even guys like Ryan Klesko and David Justice who were a little bit out there at that time, they would check their egos in at the door. They had to, but when you went to batting practice in those days, it really, and saw the other guys, it really, got under your skin. They didn't want to talk to you the way the guys did, even in the late 80s and early 90s. And so I was like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. They got spoiled. They got too much money too soon. But now I'm back. I watched every pitch, of the Astros Rangers series. I did. I absolutely loved it, and I would do the same. I think I kind of rooted the whole Diamondbacks thing, which is bad for television ratings. That's the kind of thing that excites me. I love to see teams that are anonymous, whether it be the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Arizona Diamondbacks, So I've had fun with that. And you're right, college basketball is right around the corner. And I just I'll give you guys a couple of games hot off the presses. I just found out I'm going to be opening up with UCLA at Villanova.
Oh, wow.
Raft and I are going to do that game on a
That's
Saturday
been a good
night.
basketball game for like the last 80 years, like whenever they play.
I think that game is going to be on December the 9th, I think it is, December 9th. And December the 2nd, I'm going to be doing Marquette and Wisconsin, another grudge match,
Shaka.
In that state. So, yeah, Shaka and the Badgers trying to get back on point. So
we speak the college basketball here too. We speak
absolutely
it fluently. We're definitely going to have Tim Brando back on for that. But guess what? We're sticking with the old foosball here, Timmy B. And look, we talked Georgia, Florida yesterday. We talked some Utah, Oregon yesterday. But there's also some sneaky matchups. Tennessee at Kentucky. I mean, you look at Tennessee coming off that cliff falling of the second half against Alabama. You got to give kudos, obviously, to Nick Saban and his staff coming off the week before where they made no adjustments against Arkansas. It seemed they really kind of figured it out. Tennessee 6-2, 2-2 in the conference coming into this game. Kentucky is in that same boat. And outside of Missouri, this kind of feels like a battle for second in the SEC East. As again, we still got a while to go in it. Who the hell knows with Florida?
Yeah.
But who needs this more, in your opinion, Timmy B, when you look at this matchup? Because they're both pretty much out of having a chance to play in the SEC championship and be able to make the college football playoffs. Who needs this more?
Yeah, normally you'd always say the Tennessee coach, but after what happened a year ago, I think Heupel, they're going to cut him some slack.
Equity
in Knoxville, I think. Yeah, I think he built up a little equity. I think that after the fast start and just brutal defeat, I mean, they were not competitive against Georgia, and I thought they would be. I liked their quarterback. I liked obviously their run game was good. And I thought Stoops was I think I told you guys in the summer, I thought Kentucky or Missouri could emerge as the second best teams. And I think I put Kentucky ahead of Missouri. And for obvious reasons, I thought they were a more physical team defensively. But, Drinkwitz has had a great year. That Kansas State win, which propelled them, did a world of good for them. And other than the LSU comeback in the second half, which we now know why LSU had it. They're just an unbelievable offense. They're historically good offensively. If it weren't for the 19 team, we'd be saying maybe best LSU offense ever, but we can't because of what happened in 2019. Their defense obviously has been historically bad, but I think it's improving. But back to Missouri, I think that team, along with the winner of this game, I think gets to stay in the conversation with Missouri as Georgia's next best opponents. Okay, so that's what's at stake, I think, with Tennessee and Kentucky.
No, and again, I was more surprised, not that Tennessee lost to Alabama, but that Joe Milton, I thought, played better than what most of us believed he was in that game. I thought he, especially, early in that game, that first drive, I mean, the throw he made to Squirrel White, it didn't get any better than that. And I thought he was actually pretty decent in the intermediate and in the short game. But when I look at Kentucky, that matchup against Georgia, we talked about it all week. I thought it was an awful matchup for Kentucky because it was strength versus strength when it comes down to the running game and that box-heavy run game as opposed to the lateral quarterback run game we've seen people have success against Georgia's defense with. But when I look at that Kentucky-Missouri game, what surprised me the most was you had two teams coming off tough losses. Thought Missouri would be more disappointed than embarrassed, then Kentucky would be more embarrassed than disappointed. Speaking about second halves, I mean, Kentucky jumped all over Missouri in the first quarter. Missouri answered in the second. It was back and forth in the third, and then Missouri just took it to them in the fourth. But the most surprising thing in that game was Ray Davis got his right on the ground, which is who Kentucky is. Devin Leary, it still seems, has not figured out a way to be that final piece of the puzzle that Kentucky needs in the passing game, even bringing Liam Cohen back. But the most impressive, without a doubt, thing to come out of that Missouri-Kentucky game was the fact that Missouri was able to win that game by double digits on the road without Luther Burden Jr. really doing anything, and that's their alien. They had three more guys with more receiving yards than Kentucky's leading pass catcher in that game. I think Missouri may be more of a complete team right now, but I tell you what, Kentucky, I think, has to bounce back, Timmy B. And when I look at Devin Leary, the question is, we asked this about Joe Milton last weekend, David, can Devin Leary make enough throws to be able to keep Kentucky in the game? Because I think Tennessee is going to score.
Well, Timmy B, like you, and I think maybe even Blaine, I had Kentucky finishing second in the East. Now, obviously, Georgia in the driver's seat right now, Missouri second. But what makes this very interesting is Kentucky's had their crack at both of them the past 2 weeks, and they've lost. Brock Bowers being injured at Georgia, that's Georgia's best player, certainly on offense. That makes this more interesting. Tennessee hasn't gotten a shot at either one of them. And while you are coming off of a disappointing loss when you had Alabama on the ropes, you lost to the Crimson Tide on the road. Hey, it happens to the best of us, right? Tennessee now, to me, where they'll still get Missouri and they'll still get Georgia later on in the schedule, they have a chance here to sort of stay involved in that conversation, right, for the East.
Yeah, they're sort of in the position Florida was in a few weeks ago, and to Napier's credit, this team to this point has answered the bell, and maybe Florida is the team that can sneak in there and find their mojo at the end of the year because of all this concentration between the teams that we're talking about. Listen, fellas, what's going on in that division and what's going on in the SEC is emblematic of every conference in America. We just don't know, okay? And when I say we don't know, I mean, somebody will say, okay, Tim, who's the best team in America? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go with Michigan and Georgia, but do I really know? No, I don't know because neither of them have been tested. They've not played a schedule that would tell you that. If you go out west, we all thought, okay, if you just look at the way Washington was blowing people out, they were playing to their own standards. They weren't playing down to the competition standards. Well, that ended last week with Arizona State coming in and them laying an egg. And now, Penix is a little banged up. So we just, I think it's emblematic of what's going on everywhere.
Well,
I look by example at Georgia and as good as they are, I mean, Carson Beck, has he really been tested? I mean, I don't really believe that he has. I think the cocktail party has a chance. I think the cocktail party suddenly might have a chance of being decent. So when we talk about these teams trying to move from, say, fourth to second in the East, their plight is really no different than the so-called big boys that still believe they're in contention for the college football playoff. Yeah. I mean, it's just that kind of year. It really is.
And it's refreshing. I'm glad that we don't know based about all the teams. It's a nice change up from what we've gotten. I do want to say that before we move on and we talk about this Monday. How much credibility, though, do we have to give Michigan? I think Michigan and Georgia are in two different spots. Michigan has returned so much. They have so much experience. If you're a salesman for 4 years, I'm going to give you credit going into that fifth year if I look at your body of work in those 4 years and say, hey, you've almost been the top salesman the past 2 years. You're the only returning salesman that we know about in this group of salesmen. Even though the schedule might not have has been the toughest, I believe I know who Michigan is. I believe I know who J.J. McCarthy is. I believe I know who Blake Corum is, this offensive line is. I believe I know who this defense is, even more than Georgia, who offensive line we know is talented, had to replace some parts. Now you lose Brock Bowers. There's really not that star power in the front seven on defense. I think we actually may know a little bit more about Michigan than we do some of these other teams.
And that's why I've got Michigan ranked ahead of Georgia in my poll.
Agreed.
Because of that very reason.
Agreed.
I mean, well, you got to slay the champion. You got to be number one. And no. And Kirby, I think, would be the first to tell you that. You get 0 for being a defending champion. You get 0 for being a 2-time defending champion. It means nothing. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. I hear some of these clowns on television during the day, and they're talking about until you've relinquished the crown, you're the champion. That is such garbage. Okay, How do you think Saban won all those national titles? He wiped it away the moment he won it, and you begin anew. And even he, back in those days, had more of his team returning than he does now. With the portal, teams are almost completely different. Michigan's really not in that respect, which is why I have them where I do. Now, look, do they have a clunker in them? They may. Penn State is probably hoping they do, because if they can get past Maryland and a few other, by the way, that's a really good team that Loxley has this year.
Yeah, ask Ohio State
could still surprise. They could still surprise some people. So, we're going to see a lot of movement here. There's going to be a lot of carnage. I've already heard some of the conversation just this past week of, okay, looks like now we have all the Power 5 teams lined up. Oklahoma, Texas rematch winner, they would go. Alabama, Georgia, the winner of that one, they would go. I'm hearing all these scenarios now about, the big 5 conferences and those winners, and one could be left out. Well, you don't want to have that conversation if you're in the SEC, okay? You don't want to have that conversation.
You want me on that wall.
Because if you look, because let me tell you something, all right? When the college football standings come out, all right, when they come out, and they're about to, when they come out, neither Michigan or Georgia will be ranked ahead of Ohio State. Yeah. Why? Because strength of schedule for Ohio State is far greater, and you can just book it. They're going to be number one. And strength of schedule always matters in those standings at the beginning. They matter less when we get towards the end, because then it's about the brand names. All right. That's when the brand and the objectivity goes out the window, and they're looking for the big brands to be the ones that get in. But if that scenario were to hold, and all these teams that we're talking about that people are now thinking, hey, well, if everybody keeps winning, and Florida State would take the ACC undefeated, and Washington would take the Pac-12 undefeated. And okay, well, I got news for you. If you're looking for 4 teams and you got 5 champions, okay, let's hear that conversation piece the last week of the season when the committee is telling us why Georgia is in over a team that's got a far better non-conference schedule, because that's going to come up. Okay, that will happen. And by the way, if Alabama happens to beat Georgia, I got news, Bammers, you're not getting in. Not if everybody else goes undefeated. Yeah. Not if everybody else goes undefeated. Yeah.
Well, they'd have to.
The committee proved, the committee proved to Alabama a year ago that if you don't have the right number in the L column, you're not going to get there. Until last year, I didn't believe it. I really didn't. But if that scenario runs through, I'm telling you, can you imagine if Greg Sankey in the last year of the 14 playoff didn't get a team in?
Well, what would happen is he'd say, no. He'd say, guys, Texas or Oklahoma, they're in the SEC. We're in. Like, we got the team that came with the Big 12. We're in. There's ways to spin it.
That's a stretch.
You can spin it and be like, congrats to our newest member for making the playoff. Congrats.
Blaine, what's the percentage chance that the SEC doesn't get a team in the college football playoff, or that the Buckeyes are ranked number 1 when the poll comes out if Michigan and Georgia haven't lost?
0.
Both.
I think no.
Georgia's gonna be ranked.
No.
number one. There's not
I
a
think
thing.
Tim's right. I
not
think
a
Ohio
thing.
State is going to be ranked
You
number
think it's
one.
going to be ranked? Look, I appreciate valuing strength of schedule. We
Then
need
why-
marquee matchups in the non-conference more than we need undefeated teams. I just don't.
Then why is
see it
Georgia
happening.
ranked number 1 now?
Because those are preseason polls. These aren't. This is a
Right.
poll that's released
Right.
during the year
It's
that
not
is
the college
based
football playoff.
Strictly on the
Yeah.
strengths. And they have an easy out. Ohio State plays Michigan.
Yeah.
So it's going to work
That's
itself
right.
out.
But Florida State.
Yeah.
Florida State will be top 4 probably.
I mean, they have a tough schedule as anybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So why wouldn't
That
they be? Why
LSU
would they be
game-
1?
That LSU game had them that bought them, an opportunity to drop a game and still get in all likelihood. All
Without
right?
a doubt. Well,
And-
Florida State, if they're
yeah.
number 2, would
I mean,
we
it
be
did.
shocked? Would you be shocked if it was
No,
Ohio State 1,
not
Florida
at
State
all.
2, Georgia 3, Michigan 4?
And I really wouldn't be
The
mad
only
at
team,
it.
the only team that could be ranked ahead of Ohio State would be Florida State.
And I wouldn't be
In my
mad
view.
at it.
I love all these conversations, but I feel like I knew exactly what team Michigan was last year.
Yeah.
Like they were this year, and they did that against TCU. It's all fun and games, but I guarantee you it's going to get to the point where we're watching Georgia and Michigan play each other in national.
Okay, well, look, I wouldn't care at all if Michigan's not ranked number 1, number 2, or number 3 when these polls come out.
Win out, you're
Because
in.
like you said, you're going to get a chance to go on the road to Happy Valley and play Penn State. You're going to get your biggest rival at home, which is always going to be a tough test. You still got to win your conference. Look, Michigan goes undefeated. Everything's going to be there. I'll tell you what does have me frustrated, though, Timmy B, is this NCAA investigation out for Jim Harbaugh, which it seems like a constant witch hunt against this guy.
Yeah.
And I understand people listening, they say, oh, well, you're biased because you played for the program, even though I defended Mason Smith at LSU against the NCAA and Tez Walker at North Carolina, and even Jim Tressel shouldn't have been fired from
Terrell
OSU
Pryor and his
back in the day.
tattoos.
The Terrell Pryor tattoo situation, I cannot believe they got rid of Jim Tressel, even though I don't know how much the NCAA was involved with that versus the university. Either way, I need you to explain it to me, Tim Brando. How? And the NCAA's come out and said nothing, right? They back channel this through the media, Yahoo Sports, put out a headline that says sources, right? Sources, Michigan under investigation for sign stealing, and then 6 paragraphs down, all of a sudden you find out, oh, sign stealing technically isn't against the rules. This is a little Mott and Bailey technique where it's, oh, you can't scout in person. What's going on here?
I don't know why the NCAA doesn't just hire Wetzel and Forty to be their infractions committee. They really just should go ahead because they do better work than their committee does. They have more information. I don't care how many people they employ in Indianapolis, they never get the information that those guys get. The reality here is this is all about a personal vendetta
For sure.
with Harbaugh and with Michigan. It's a little bit like, to your point, the NCAA spins it out. It's like Biden sending John Kirby out to do his press conferences for him every day on what's going on in the Middle East. Okay, Biden can't take a question, all right, but Kirby can. Same thing here. The NCAA will never answer a question, but they'll have those guys, all right, and they're great writers, don't get me wrong, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, Ross and them are going to report like that's a big story.
Absolutely. No question. And listen, I have great respect for Dan Wetzel and Pat Forty. But the bottom line is that's how the NCAA works. And the people that are in charge of college football now, these the commissioners of college football, all due respect at how much they would like to get help from Charlie Baker, the new president of the NCAA. But I got news. Charlie Baker is going to be no more effective than his predecessor because once you're in that loop, once you're in that NCAA cobble of bureaucrats, you're not going to get anything done. And I'll take you all the way back to 1984 when the Supreme Court ruled against the universities of Georgia, for the universities of Georgia and Oklahoma. And the NCAA lost its financial monopoly of college football television rights. The NCAA has been after the college game to disrupt it, to undermine it, to do everything in its power to screw it over at its most important time of the year. We already have a problem with the media covering college football the way it ought to be covered on a daily basis. Okay? It's the second most popular sport in America. No network is getting bigger ratings, even with baseball, than they get with college football. And yet, what kind of dribble do we have to endure every stinking day? on these Embrace Debate shows. Nothing but pure pablum about the NFL, the NBA, and anything else that they want to talk about besides college football.
Mhm.
All right? So let's throw this in there about Michigan in the middle of the season so we can talk about anything other than the game itself.
Wow.
College football's not celebrated on a regular basis between, you might as well just say it doesn't exist, okay, until Saturday or maybe Thursday night or Friday night at halftime of the games that might be on ESPN or the U or on FS1, because nobody's covering it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The NCAA, understanding that, says, you know what, let's screw with this and we'll get the media to chime in here. I mean, it's just pathetic. It's
Make it
been
seem
pathetic
dirty.
for years.
Yeah.
And well, it is. And the NCAA is to blame for this. They shouldn't have one thread of power. Their significance in college football is no greater than one grain of sand in the Mojave Desert. Okay.
Wow.
The only reason they exist is for the NCAA men's basketball tournament. And as soon as 2032 gets here and that television deal is over, I certainly hope that my friends that are commissioners of college football say, get the hell out of here. We're going to take care of this the rest of the way. We don't need you. We don't want you. And we will start our own basketball tournament. And that's that. See ya.
Wow.
Look, I'm not a fan of the NCAA. It would not shock me at all if they false flag themselves in the middle of the college football season. Would not surprise me at all. They're the dirtiest ones. But you know what else is dirty? Starting a business. Right? It can be tough, especially knowing how to run your online storefront. All right. Thanks to Shopify, it's even easier than ever, like having a conversation with Tim Brando. Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business, from the launch your online shop stage all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders? How many of them get off my land candles y'all buy? Get off my lawn, not get off my land. Don't know how well those sold. Our marketing team uses Shopify every day to sell our merchandise. I'm telling you, I get asked all the time, people that are starting podcast shows, Jake, how do I be more efficient with this? It's a lot more. I bit off more than I can chew. Well, with Shopify, they can help you chew it up very nice and cleanly. Really, really easy. All right. And they help you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout rate, up to 36% better compared to other leading commerce platforms. When you hear this noise, hit that, David. We rich, y'all. That means you made another sale. So sign up for a $1 per month trial period. Yeah, in this economy, they got your back. $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/crane. That's CRAIN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/crane now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. That's shopify.com/crane. Electrify your shop with Shopify.
I love it.
There, David?
I love it.
Tim Brando, one of the best in the business. Dual threat, versatile, can even do baseball. Bet some of you young bucks didn't even know that, but now you do. Timmy B, we talked a little Tennessee, Kentucky. By the way, Tennessee 3-point underdog on the road at Kentucky.
Really?
I'm not going to touch that game.
Did you see that
I am
line?
not touching it.
I'm
not touching
God, I
it.
love Tennessee money line.
Not with a 10-foot pole. Not with a 10-foot pole.
Tennessee money line's minus 185 right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching
And
it.
they're +3?
No. Tennessee's minus
Tennessee's
3.5.
minus three.
-3, okay.
Minus
Yeah.
3.
Over under 51
Yeah, that makes
and a half.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like Tennessee in this game. for
Definitely.
sure.
What's a game you're looking forward to this week?
Well, I was going to ask old Hemi about this too. If we talk about it right now, I mean, you look at Florida State, Wake Forest. A bunch of top teams: Oklahoma at Kansas, Washington at Stanford, Ohio State at Wisconsin. You maybe see a slip up from a big team this week.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think there's always a very good chance of that. I don't think there's any question that Oklahoma better watch out at Kansas, all right? Especially if Jalen Daniels could go, which I'm hearing he can. He's a difference maker. Not that Bean hasn't done a great job, but he just gives them, from both a run and pass standpoint, a level of versatility that they don't have without him. And the game is at Kansas, which means a lot. What's happened in the past between Oklahoma and Kansas, at Kansas, going back years and years and years. Mike Gottfried was coaching at Kansas when they beat OU in the 80s, and it helped propel him to the Pitt job. I'll never forget that game. I want to say it might have been like 85 or 6 when that game happened. Maybe later, maybe 87. But it was a huge win for him and helped him get the Pitt job when the Pitt job was really a big deal, during that era. And what happened? You guys remember the Baker Mayfield moment at midfield?
Yeah.
that was there's a lot of bad blood with OU and Kansas, and Lance Leipold and that offense. That is a headache to prepare
No
for.
problem.
Okay, their offensive coordinator Kolnicki is one of the best OCs in the country, and he has so much eye candy pre-snap. I mean, if you get caught up in all the pre-snap movement with the Kansas offense, it can cause you problems. We had Texas, Spencer and I, last week, and we were talking a little bit to Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator of Texas, and the subject of Kansas came up, and he talked a little bit about that. Man, they do some very unique things, and it helps you when you're preparing for teams that really know how to get vertical in the passing game, but spread you. The breadth and the width of the field is always going to be utilized. And Dana Holgerson's sort of that way with Houston, and Houston gave Texas some trouble. Same would be true, I think, with OU. You look back at what UCF did with John Rice Plumlee in that game against OU. Now, granted, you could say the open date and maybe the hangover from beating Texas in the Red River rivalry affected Dylan Gabriel's offense for a period of time. But what UCF was doing was maintained through that entire game. Short of a bad 2-point play call by Gus Malzahn, that game could possibly still be going on. I think Kansas is ripe for an upset alert here on OU. Beware of that game.
Plus 10. They got getting 10 at home.
Spencer and I we have Stanford and Washington. I think the Huskies got their wake-up call. Stanford became their old selves in the UCLA game. And I think if you're Washington, you say, all right, let's pound the rock because Stanford can't stop the run. I think a lot of people felt like maybe Troy Taylor's team was going to get on balance when the Colorado debacle occurred in the second half a few weeks ago. But Stanford's just totally outmanned in that game. So don't expect to happen Pac-12 after dark with us. We're actually on in prime time on FS1, but I see Washington rolling in that game. The game you guys have not talked about, and you probably won't see me until it's played, is LSU and Alabama. Yeah. Because my hate mail from Alabama is already, it's full go.
The Chateau mailbox is just full.
Of course it is, Tim.
It is full go. And, I did rank Alabama this week. I had not had them ranked in my top 10 for a couple of weeks. And boy, oh boy, were they coming after me. I did put them up at number 9 this week. I thought they had a great second half. Milroe has clearly gotten better. And but here's the issue with Alabama. They haven't played 60 minutes.
No,
yet.
Consistently inconsistent.
They have not played 60 minutes yet. And I got news. Against LSU, you're going to have to score a lot of points. So whatever your issues are or aren't in the first half, you better still have the foot on the pedal in the second half if you've got a lead, or you better make sure that you score with the Tigers because they're the best offense in the Southeastern Conference, without a doubt, maybe in the country.
They're the best offense in the country, in my opinion.
And the defense, Jake, the defense is getting better. It is. And BK is pretty confident about this matchup. And Daniels wants to showcase all that because this is going to be it for him. And I think that Alabama, I'm not going to tell you my pick yet.
Yeah, Timmy, we may have to bring you on next week. We may have to bring you on next week if you have time.
I'll do it just for you.
I know.
But I just think that is one of those games, fellas, where if you just look at the makeup of the two teams right now, Alabama is improving, but they haven't improved enough to play 60 minutes yet. So, Saban better be chewing on the cigar if he wants to smoke the cigar when he plays LSU.
You hope they don't figure it out. That 60 minutes against LSU.
Yeah, we need to play a game. We need to play a game. We need to have a segment called how much? How much do they need? How much does LSU have to score to beat Bama? In some of these games where it's so lopsided on one side of the ball, the other. But Timmy, we're going to have that
42.
one. Yeah, we're going to have that one.
I'll give you an early bar.
Give me an early one.
I'm going to say 45.
Oh, okay.
That sounds about right to me.
45.
Good God.
That sounds about. We're going to be covering that game. I mean, it's going to be like Augustus
have the
Gloop's
over
fat
on
ass in that
already.
tube and the Wonka factory. Just going to be just stuck on it, just covering it, just covered in chocolate
There's
in the
nothing
best
better,
way.
man.
Oh,
There's
dude, it's going to be
nothing
great.
better than the venom fired from T-Town to the Chateau. There is nothing better.
For sure. That is some hot venom too. That is some absolutely
Oh,
hot
big
venom.
time. Yeah, it sure is.
Hey, Timmy, I want to ask you about Texas quickly. I know you were on the call. You and I in the offseason said, hey, Texas has to go on the road to 3 different teams in the state of Texas. We circled that Houston game, and, hey, you were on it. That game was tied with, 6-7 minutes left in the fourth. Texas gets out of there with a 7-point win, but not with a healthy quarterback. Quinn Ewers goes down, is going to miss a few weeks. You got to see Malik Murphy in person come in. How's this going to go down the stretch for Texas as they face BYU and Kansas State?
Well, I can say this now because the game is come and gone, okay? But you guys know this. I don't know that everybody knows this, but I covered Archie Manning when he was with the New Orleans Saints and from 79 through 81. And then in the 82 season, he was traded by Bum to Houston, and they brought Kenny Stabler in to be their quarterback, which was a big story.
And Richard
I've
Todd.
covered all 3 generations. Yeah,
I'd say.
all 3 generations of the Mannings I've covered. I did Peyton Manning's last game at Tennessee against Vanderbilt. And Woody Woodenhoffer's defense kind of shut him down on the same day that Charles Woodson, had a punt return and 2 interceptions, 1 a pick 6, and he stole the Heisman that day. And I covered Eli, during his days at Ole Miss. I thought for a moment at 21-0, I thought for a moment we were going to see Arch Manning. And the reason was because Malik Murphy, according to my reports, which were substantiated by the Texas people, he had been a little bit nicked up. And there's the big question about where do they go after Quinn Ewers. Ewers is gone after this year.
Yeah.
That's the word. He's gone. So they want to keep the red shirt on Arch Manning. And, of course, the narrative out there is that Murphy is number 2 and has been number 2. He's a great athlete, a celebrated one out of California. Big, strong, can run it. But, he doesn't throw it, at least right now, as well as Arch Manning does. Now, remember, he can play in 4 games and a bowl and hold on to his red shirt. All right, you got to bear that in mind. So what happens if, in fact, Quinn is on the AC joint, from what I'm told, and David, you might be better at handling this, but trying to handle an AC joint mid-season is tough. It's hard to try to come back from that, no matter what position you're playing, especially quarterback. But I think the potential of both of them playing is there. Cooper was on site with his wife, and they were hopeful that if Houston, they were a 24-point favorite.
Yeah.
If that game had been 21 egg at the end of the first, which it was, if it had not been 21-14 at halftime, then I think Arch was probably going to see a little playing time. Last week. It didn't happen, obviously, but I think the potential of both of those quarterbacks, Murphy and Manning, getting some playing time in the interim while Ewers tries to get healthy again is very much in play for Sark because their strengths are different. Okay, what they do with the offense are different. He only threw 1 pass, Murphy, in that game. It was a seam route that was badly thrown behind his receiver. And they decided to feed and fan Baxter and Brooks to get that last touchdown, which turned out to be the game winner against Houston. But if not for a bad spot by the officials on a 3rd down and 1 at the 9-yard line when the 360-pounder pulled him back a yard, and they did not give full forward progress to the running back. I believe it was Mathis that carried the ball for Houston. That would have been a 1st down, and the Cougars would have had 4 shots at the end zone from the 9-yard line. That didn't happen. It could have been a Utah-USC kind of finish for those that maybe didn't see it. I had a lot of fans from the SEC get in touch with me saying that once the Tennessee-Alabama game kind of went south, they tuned in and they were pretty much watching Texas the rest of the way.
It was wild.
And it was a wild finish. It really was. So I think that Manning is in play, at least for the short term. Now, if Malik Murphy does the job and he's really, really good and he's passing the ball well, which he could, then they'll probably keep Arch in the deep freeze because they definitely want to hold on to that extra year of eligibility for him. I think that was agreed upon by both Arch and the family before he went there. But with yours out, if suddenly the passing game is affected, you got to remember now, when you've got receivers like Xavier Worthy and Jordan Whittington and that tight end, JT Sanders, I mean, if you can't get the ball to them in some of these matchups that Texas has left, at Texas Tech, you're going to have to score against them. You're going to have to score against some of these other teams that are going to play. Texas will be favored in all of the games that they've got left, but they will be challenged in those games. Kansas State could be a real problem for Texas.
BYU.
And that game is 2 weeks away. Yeah, BYU is coming up this week, but I think Kansas State poses the greater threat. The game is at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium, and that one I think is on the docket potentially for yours truly and Spencer. Either that game or the last Bedlam in Stillwater.
Well,
that weekend.
I will say I've been very fortunate the last 2 weekends when Dana Holgorsen has what I call his Big Ern McCracken moments. It's when something crazy happens in a game where Dana Holgorsen's a coach. His hair, like it just reminds me when Big Ern's looking at that last frame with like the ball with the skull
Hair
in
on
it. You know, his his hair's up like that. And I can just see, listen, I'm not saying anything is scripted, but it's very, very easy for me to see Texas, first year in SEC, Quinn Ewers gone. Malik Murphy, I said it on Monday's show, he is going to have to play so well during this interim that it's impossible for them not to start him next year because seeing the name Arch Manning in lights with Texas going to the SEC just seems like too big of a moneymaker for them for it not to just be.
Only thing I'm saying is this. If they play BYU with Malik and they go down maybe 14, 17 points early.
Here he comes.
And they bring in the chosen one. And he leads them back to victory.
Well,
the world will explode.
You're assuming that he's ready to do that.
Arch Manning, guys, if that happens, Emmanuel Acho will tell Arch Manning to sit out the rest of his career.
Yes.
Until
sit out the rest of your career
into the NFL after that great comeback performance with BYU. What else do you have to prove?
And then when you go pro, sit those games out too.
The preseason out.
I get hurt.
The preseason out.
That's beautiful, Jake. That's beautiful, Jake. That's a good one. Listen. To your point, let me just throw this one out there, okay? Because I believe it. And again, you have to have some context here, okay? As I said, 3 generations of Manning. 1994 was the year. Keith Jackson was calling the game. And 2 Tennessee players got hurt. The last one was Todd Helton, who went on to have a great career as a Denver Rocky with the Colorado Rockies. And here comes Peyton Manning. Number 16. And you know what? That was in 1994, and he never surrendered the position. All those guys got Wally pipped immediately. And I think that to your point about what Emmanuel Acho had to say, which is another subject, you may need an entire show to start over again for me to weigh in on that. But let me just say this. Malik Murphy transferring to USC when Caleb Williams leaves could be really in play. Just think about that.
Would not be shocked.
Would not be shocked. And he is a great player. And you're right. That long shadow cast is definitely there. And Arch is there for the long haul, and he loves it. And the quarterback coach there loves it. They just hired Paul Chryst, the old Wisconsin quarterback, former Wisconsin coach who Arch loves and loves talking to. And that offensive line that Kyle Flood has at Texas is really good. And I think, a guy like Arch Manning wants to stay upright for most of his career. And that Texas offensive line, for the first time in a long, long while, guys, looks really good. I think the worst prediction I ever made was on your show in the summer when I said Texas could be this year's Texas A&M. They are not only not this year's Texas
Yeah.
A&M. Texas A&M is
Yeah,
That's what,
Texas
but
A&M
you
still
saved
just
it. You
like
saved it with that joke. That joke was hilarious.
yeah. But let me say this, all right? Texas is as good or better than any team playing right now, and they've got a loss. Okay. I think that if they can get in the playoff, they can beat Michigan, they can beat Georgia, they can beat any of them because they've got the personnel. And with Sark, you've got an elite play caller. All right. You just absolutely do. So if they can navigate their way through what's left of the schedule, get that rematch with Oklahoma, which I believe they would win, then, oh my God, you wouldn't want to play them if that's the one-loss team amongst a lot of undefeateds in the CFP.
Definitely. I mean, that's I think we could get a rematch.
Arch Manning back there.
Yeah, you get a rematch of Oregon, Washington in the Pac-12 championship. Hell, I think you may even get a rematch of Toledo versus Miami, Ohio in the
What a
Pac
great
championship.
game.
Another one.
Texas, Oklahoma in the Big 12. Look, the bag's deep here on Crane & Company. That's why we bring on our guy like Tim Brando, Timmy B, Himmy B from the Chateau. Timmy B, that's it. Look, take it, run with it. I totally came up with that. Where you going to be at this weekend, week 9?
Yeah, we got Stanford and Washington. Right. So I get to see Penix. I'm glad he got his clunker out of the way last week against Arizona State. And the following week, we're waiting. As of our conversation, I'm waiting to find out where we'll be for November the 4th. And I've got a good feeling that it'll either be Kansas State at Texas or Oklahoma in Stillwater. And by the way,
dude, Oklahoma State.
Mike Gundy's done.
Yeah.
They lost to South Alabama
33-7.
Ugly. Timmy B, it's ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
ugly.
God.
Rotating quarterbacks.
You gotta believe T. Boone Pickens has just reached out with some holy water from heaven.
Yeah, well, he can afford it
again.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, what a job Gundy's done. Okay, and talk about a lovely parting gift. You know, for Oak State to get Oklahoma in Bedlam for the last time. Whew, now that is an upset alert waiting to happen.
Scary. Scary, right? Total transformation. Timmy B, thanks so much, man, for joining us. It's always great. We love having you, and we got to get you on next week for LSU. But it's just right. It's only right. But again, man, look forward to watching you on the call this weekend. And, hey, maybe Washington gets up enough. You can go in there and catch a couple passes from Penix.
Who knows? He's a lefty. I know that.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. You guys speak the same language.
Spin's different.
Nothing like a left-handed athlete with a right-handed political mind.
Hey, look, I've seen you.
You know what I mean?
I've seen you on the tee box. You're a versatile guy. Tim Brando, thanks so much, my friend.
Right eye dominant, left-handed swinging, baby. We'll see you next week.
Clear eyes, full heart. See you, can't lose. It's always great with our friend Tim Brando. Man, that Oklahoma State game is super personal. But speaking about personal, you know what's not good when it's personal? It's when your information's out there. I don't know if you've Googled yourself lately, and you can be like, hey, man, look, I'm not out in the public eye. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, I work at the library or something like that. Guess what? Google your name. You will be shocked at how much your personal info is out there. Data brokers, that's the age we live in, right? People aren't handing out newsletters anymore or index cards with your info. It's just online. It's the internet. So data brokers, hackers, anyone with the internet connection, they can find out your personal details, photos, and sensitive information. Even that stuff you thought you got rid of in college.
Still
you know what I'm talking about. And now you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Crane, CRAIN. David, you oddly smiled at me over there to the left. I could feel it. And you use our promo code Crane, CRAIN. That's the only way to get 20% off. Go to joindeleteme.com. That's the first part. joindeleteme.com/Crane, CRAIN. Blaine, give him a little wiggle. There it is. And use promo code Crane at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Crane and /Crane, and then use the promo code Crane. I'm telling you,
protect yourself.
They took my stuff off. They sent me back a report. I was shocked.
There's still pictures of Jacob that he can't get down.
Okay.
Him and Alex Grinch have information on everybody.
Some of those are gonna live on the internet.
That's a Frenchman I know.
Coming from the guy who took him.
That's a Frenchman I know nothing about. JoinDeleteMe.com/Crane. Check it out today. We appreciate you guys. We're having a ton of fun in Vegas. Wow, I just won so much money in blackjack.
I lost
How crazy is that?
Great.
How crazy is that? We're gonna have some more pre-recorded content for you on Thursday, and then Friday, Flaming Dragon Friday, We are back live, baby. Shout out to Tim Brando. Make sure you keep spreading the word about the show. Enjoy your football watching. It seems like it's every day. And I don't want it to leave, David. And like the chances of me not winning in blackjack this week.
Uh-oh.
That's right, I said it. All right, hold on. Do I need to reverse jinx it? The chances of me actually winning money in Las Vegas this week is going. None of my card, but I'm okay. Go on! Mossed him! Clip it.